In this video, I'll go over everything you need to know about installing back windshield tint. I'll go over the shrinking, prepping, and installing. So the first thing that I do is I make my H pattern. This is literally what it sounds like. You go split it down the middle and then go up the sides, making a very big H. This is going to split all your fingers going up and down and get rid of any going out of the side because you can only shrink up and down. Here I split them into more manageable fingers, and then I just go side to side. In this section, I'll be going kind of focusing on the corner so you guys can see all these different ways work. So I focus on the corner first, going outside then in, and then I just begin to squeegee it out as it shrinks. So how you know it shrunk is when those up and down big fingers, big pockets, whatever you want to call them, kind of go side to side and turn into waves. Now, as you get to a corner, you'll notice them want to go out to the side. You can somewhat push them out to the side, so experiment with that a little bit. You don't want to shrink them out of the side, but you can start to push them out of the side. Now as I get to the middle, I want to demonstrate a pull shrink, which is where you pull, meaning lift it off the glass. You're not actually pulling. In this case, I actually kind of over shrunk it, but you guys will get to see how I deal with that. So I just continue on shrinking with the top section, get that down, and then I'll come back to that later. You guys will see why that's giving me issues and how I deal with it. So in this bottom section, first of all, bottom sections will always shrink easier and faster. I won't go over everything in depth, but if you guys are curious, you guys can always check out my community, ask questions, and join any Q&As. So in this scenario, I kind of just go in circles with my heat gun. This is going to evenly shrink it. All these ways will evenly shrink it. So whichever one of these that you try that is most comfortable, that will get you the most even shrink is what you want to do. Even shrink is what you want. And you guys will see these different methods will kind of give me slightly different results in terms of shrinking. They will all lay flat, but that doesn't mean they will all, I guess, behave equally once you're installing. Once you're installing, there's other things to consider. So in this example, you see I go all the way across side to side, and you see those ripples are very, very soft, and it's kind of just laying down on the glass. Whatever way you do that gets you this is what you want to do, because those very soft ones that just kind of lay down, that means they're not going to give you any issues when you're inside installing. That is what you want. Because your tint is not going to want to stick to the defroster strips in some scenarios, and so you'll have what we call peanuts constantly popping up on those defroster strips, and you won't be able to get those down. And as you can see here, that part that I over shrunk is now getting less aggressive, because before I had one side completely shrunk and this side not shrunk at all, so I was pulling very hard diagonally, versus when I get this mostly shrunk, then it is only kind of just pulling side to side, which is really actually what you want. So then it just became much more manageable, and then I just continued to shrink, and it was no problem. And now in these top corners, this is going to be where you're going to have the most problem, because you have the most amount of film shrinking the most. But you just continue to shrink slowly, don't want to crease. This is all really just trial and error. And then again, here I'm going to be doing a bit of a pull shrink, and this is a much better example. Another way to get it to lay down very, very smoothly, because you're literally lifting it off and letting it hug itself to the glass, because you're not pulling it hard, you're just lifting it off and letting it hug itself. So when it's shrunk, it'll lay itself down. So it's a very good way. And then as you get to the end, you can't pull shrink because you'll be burning your fingers. That's where you kind of just touch up those edges smoothly, and then you just want to smoothly shrink those down so you don't have any issues once you're installing on the inside. Now I jump into the back of the car. That is where I get ready to start my prep process. So I have to remove this third brake light, which you actually don't have to remove, but I do when it's an option. It's very easy, just pop it out, unplug it. You stick that plug down in there and cover it with some towels so everything's nice and protected. Now you just spray some tint slip solution on your glass, and this is what I use to clean it, just my slip solution and a non-squirt scrub pad. This is going to loosen all of the dirt up very, very good, and hopefully get rid of any dirt, adhesive, boogers, grime, whatever is on that back glass is going to hopefully scrub all that off. Now you want to use something that's not very abrasive and obviously not going to damage those defroster strips or your glass. In this case is the non-score scrub pad. You can pick up at any Walmart. This will not scratch the glass or damage any defroster strips, but it will, be nice and, I guess, firm enough to get rid of most dirt or grime, whatever's hanging on that back glass. This is a brand new car, but I'm still very, very thorough, as you would want to be. And now I squeegee all of this off to the side, overlapping strokes, hopefully missing none of this dirty water, because whenever you're in this process, you want to picture any of this water, soap, whatever, as carrying dirt. And the more you behave this way, the more you'll ensure that none of it was left behind and gonna allow any dirt to get inside of your installation. Now, is most of this actually carrying dirt? Probably not, but that is how you want to treat it, and this will ensure you get a clean install. The more dirty it is, the more times you want to do this. And after I've loosened all of that dirt up, it's loose now. So it's still hanging out there. I've hopefully squeeged it off to the side, but it is still hanging out there. This is where a clay bar is actually going to go around and collect all of that dirt. It's going to pick it up, and you don't have any dirt actually on that windshield anymore. And especially on the defroster strips, you won't have any issues with the tint sticking to those defroster or not sticking to those defroster strips if you've clayed properly and shrunk properly. This will really make your install super smooth. You want to be spending 30 minutes touching something up that won't want to go down because you've shrunk properly and smoothly, and you've cleaned those defroster strips and glass to the point where your tint is sticking extremely well right from the get-go. So this is really important. It's not something that I did for the first 2 years. You can tint just fine without doing this. You will get clean installations, but this is definitely a good way to step up your game, prevent any issues from popping up, any peanuts, fingers, anything from popping up, and just get an overall cleaner installation. Now I squeegee all of this off to the side. I've hopefully now at this point collected all of the dirt on the glass, loosened it, collected it, and now anything left over I'm now squeegeeing off to the side, which is hopefully extremely little. Now after I'm done squeegeeing with like my main handle squeegee, I'm going to take my side swiper, which looks like I'll pick up right now, and I side swipe everything to the side, exactly what it sounds like. And you'll notice that I do kind of wipe my squeegee blade every single time, because again, you want to picture that this water is dirty, so you don't want to get water on your squeegee blade and then go and put that water back on. You want to swipe that off. Again, you're most likely not going to be spreading dirt, but just another way to ensure that you're not getting dirt. Now you want to reduce any static by spraying and misting the air like that, and then this is also going to spray down your pattern in the process, which now you can squeegee off any dirt and stuff that's hanging out there, so that when you spray down your pattern to get ready to install, it's not actually, you know, dumping dirt, or you don't have dirt hanging around your tint, which is, you know, exactly what you want. So now you just spray down your tint and get ready to install. So at this point, you want to generously, you know, spray down your window so you have plenty of slip to work with, and you want to spray your pattern more so than you do the inside. The inside, obviously, you don't want to damage anything with too much moisture, but since it's on the outside, you can really spray your pattern down generously and hopefully give yourself enough time to work with. Now at this point, you just want to grab it in a Frankenstein way where your arms are out straight, and not touch anything. That's the goal, is not touch anything. You want to keep it as evenly as possible going down. Once you get in, you spread your arms apart. That is going to make your film flat and give you an opportunity to get it over those headrests if you can't remove those, which in this case I couldn't. And you'll see I just am going to slowly work my way down, check both sides constantly to make sure, one, they're not touching anything, and to make sure I'm going down evenly. So in this shot, you could see that I need to push it to the right. So now I'm going to push it down and to the right, and then I will check again, see if I need to make an adjustment. So I check again, I need to make an adjustment. I go down and to the right, and I continue to do this throughout the whole process, because your pattern is actually bigger than the surface area that you're seeing. So that might sound, I guess, complicated, but you're going to be tucking into those pillars. So even if you get it perfectly in place and then you lay those sides flat, they're going to bump into those pillars, pick up tons of dirt, and even possibly crease. So what you want to do is work one side, push it behind. As you'll see here, I kind of demonstrate, I show where it would bump into it. So then I'm going to push it to the side, lay it flat, and then push it inside of those pillars, so behind those pillars. And then I kind of line it up a little bit. I do the same thing with the other side. I leave that hanging, work on the side first, so I lay it down so it doesn't touch the pillar, and then I push it behind and then kind of just lay it flat and adjust it to where I need to make sure that there's no light gaps. And this way you didn't touch anything with those sides, you didn't bump into those pillars, you didn't cause any creases. You just kind of worked it in slowly, did one side, then the other. Now at this point, what I recommend you guys would do, if you're a beginner and you don't know how to read the material, bigger air pockets can, if you don't know how to squeegee them out properly, you could cause creases and stuff like that. So kind of just stretch. This is like a pre-squeegee where you stretch the film out, lay it as flat as possible before you squeegee so you don't cause any creases. And now I just overlapping strokes, middle to out. On a back windshield in general, anything where there's defroster strips, you want to follow the defroster strips. You want to stretch the film out along the defroster strips so that it's not giving you any problems and anything's popping up on those defroster strips. In general, when you're squeegeeing out, you kind of want to squeegee towards the direction that the ripples are showing you. So if you're kind of going towards the side, then you want to squeegee out of the side. If you're going towards the corner, you want to squeegee towards the corner. If you're squeegeeing towards the bottom, you want to squeegee towards the bottom. And you do want to follow that, but first you want to follow the defroster strips so that those don't give you any problems. And this will kind of really make sure that your film is laid out nice and flat and you're not fighting anything later, which does save you so much time. If every install takes you, let's say, an hour, and then you're fighting fingers and whatnot for 30 extra minutes, it's just cutting into your time with time. So then I just continue squeegee everything out with my side swiper. After my side swiper, I use my bulldozer. And this is just going to grab everything that you can't quite reach with a side swiper with your traditional handheld squeegee. And after this, because there's tons of water hanging out back there, so I take off my towel and I dry off any water that's hanging out and maybe pooling and trying to get into the speakers. You want to avoid all that. Obviously, you want to take care of your customer's vehicle. So dry everything off as good as you can because you did just get everything wet. And now put your towel back, pick up your trash. And then at this point, I'm going to clean my glass to the point where I can see my installation and inspect it and make sure this is a good installation before I continue with the next steps so I don't waste my time. So whenever you clean it this way with a squeegee, this is kind of just clean as soon as you squeegee it. If you wipe it down, you're going to leave streaks and stuff like that, and you're going to be inspecting your tint, looking through streaks, looking through some moisture, and this is just going to leave it nice and clean so you can inspect it very thoroughly without any issues. Again, it's just a non-score scrub pad. You're scrubbing off the dry shrink prep and just squeegeeing it off to the side. Then you just take a nice good look at it, see if there's any air bubbles you missed, moisture that you might have missed, any contamination where you're just going to have to start over before you continue with these next steps. So as you can see, it's very, very clean. Any distortion that you'll see, it's the moisture in between the film and the glass or any streaks that I left when I wiped down the inside. So very, very clean installation. Now I'm going to continue. So I kind of lightly missed it at this point. You don't want to be getting it soaked again. And I'm just going to firmly squeegee everything out to the sides from the top to the bottom, very firm overlapping strokes so that there's very little moisture left from in between the film and the glass, and it's going to dry out nicely for the client, and they can see out of it just fine when they're driving away and not looking through a ton of moisture and distortions. And after that, you're gonna wrap a card in between a towel and squeegee all your edges out to pick up any water that might want to get sucked back into those sides after this installation, and might cause some issues. So basically, just dry out the sides so that you don't have any issues. And now I wipe everything down again so that it's nice and clean for the client. And I do hit it again afterward that I didn't record, but I do hit it again with a glass cleaner, so it is very clean after this. Now I just put my my third brake light back in. In this case, it's a Nissan. Extremely easy. Just plug it back in and pop it in. Now I'm just going to be inspecting it one last time, especially the sides. Obviously, that's where all the contamination would be. Now, right there, you saw a little finger, and I'm just going to heat it up and deal with it like that. So I'm just going to heat it up so that the adhesive is a little bit more aggressive and starts to tack up real nice. Then I just go in and squeegee it out, and that's literally it. You should have very few of these or none of these if you follow these steps correctly, meaning you prep as in clean correctly and you shrink correctly. You should not have any of those popping up. And if you do, they're extremely manageable, won't give you any problems. At this point, it squeegeed out the first time. I'm just going to really squeegee out any moisture hanging out there so it doesn't pop back up after he leaves or something like that. And that is how you install back windshield tint. At this point, I'm just triple checking everything. Hopefully that answers most of your questions. There is so much more to go over, but hopefully this will give you a general idea. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask below or join my community so you can check out a Q&A and ask all the questions that you want, or you can request specific videos that you're wanting. If you want it just on the H pattern, if you want it just on shrinking, if you want it just on the clay bar, if you want it just on scrubbing, I can make plenty in-depth videos for you guys. So let me know specifically what you guys are struggling with. I'd be happy to help. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Leave some comments down below, subscribe. I'd be happy to help.